And so, if a nuclear acceleration of radioactive pollution is the next step, then I don't know what we're going to be talking about after that. It's like, that's the end. But we have to realize that we still have a chance to neutralize these folks. It's just going to take millions and millions. Everybody's going to be on the same page, and we have to put all our minor, trivial, doctrinal differences aside, realize that every group in the world except one works for the same God. And it's time for all of those people in all of those groups in the world to share a common value and make a common decision that the one group that doesn't worship the same God has just about destroyed everyone else.
Let's see. Now I'm working on a science fiction book about that right now. In my science fiction book, the Jewish God Yahweh is insane, and that's the result. I mean, I made the comment before. If you refer to yourself as a Judeo-Christian, you're basically referring to yourself as a satanic Christian. Thank you. Now, I've got two quotes for you, John. One is from Voltaire. To learn who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticize. And folks, here's another little news brief that I think you should be aware of, because this is really relevant to what we are talking about right now. You know about TSA. You've been through an airport lately. You got felt up. You got radiated. You got scanned. You had your children molested by these pedophiles that are employed by TSA. Well, okay. The TSA has now put this information out that Jews don't have to go through TSA.
I think that was Israeli citizens, wasn't it?
That's right. Israeli citizens, they can get a pass before they go to the airport. They get checked out. They get the stamp of approval by Homeland Security, and their grandchildren and their wives don't get felt up.
That kind of goes hand in hand with the Netanyahu applause percentage, where he got 29 standing ovations. I mean, it's so in our face right now. How stupid, how ignorant, how chicken shit do you have to be not to know that the Jews did 9/11, all the wars, and control every aspect of your life? Get a grip, people.
It's, you know, the probably the most frustrating thing for me, John, and I know it is you too. You know, I've always been in business. I've been running my own company since I was 20 years old. I was making money when I was 10. Sold donuts door to door. So I've always been productive. I've always had money. And then suddenly I get into this talking about the Jews thing. And frankly, when it all came down, you know, when I started the militia, it was in response to what happened in Waco. Had nothing to do with the Jews. Didn't know a Jew from a Muslim from a Christian. Didn't know. Never went up and asked anybody if they were Jewish. Didn't know. And then suddenly I started getting heat. Suddenly I started getting criticized. Suddenly I started getting put down. And then it escalated. Then I had death threats, and then I had attempts on my life. And other people that were trying to help me had attempts made on their life. Casey Nettercott was shot coming out of Safeway with my breakfast. You know, when Waco happened, I couldn't turn away. I told my wife, we were sitting in Miami on the canal with 3 boats at docks in various places and making plenty of money.
Where'd you sail those, to Colombia?
What's that?
Where'd you sail those boats, to Colombia?
I sailed them to, I drank in all the same bars as Hemingway did. I went to Key West, I went to Alamorado, I went to Bimini, I went to Jamaica, you know, I went everywhere.
You know, a few minutes ago you mentioned J.B. Campbell.
Yes.
as probably having produced the most accurate assessment of our current situation, and having a very clear recommendation about what to do, which us people with less experience in these matters sort of blanch at the idea of this. But the question I asked in my morning bulletin this morning was, hold on, I'll find it. What do we do? Oh yeah, here it is. What is the proper response when you know someone is not only trying to kill you after first stealing everything you own? And I then said, you tell me, because, you know, I'm only the creature of the things I've learned. I'm very much influenced by what other people think. The trick in making that useful information is to accept only the information from people that you really respect and trust and have proved to yourself that they are reliable sources. And you and I both know that as we waltz around in the world, we run into a lot of people whom we thought were one thing but later learned were another. So I've been very lucky to figure out one of the key rules in taking in information is how long people have been saying the same thing. And I find J.B. Campbell to be number one in that category, although it would be unfair to minimize the steadfast devotion to the truth that Robert Forresson has provided us in France, and I still maintain a slight hope for world politics simply because he has a good relationship with Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, and Ahmadinejad at this point is maybe the last, as Hitler was, he's maybe the last hope for humanity, because he's preaching logic in the face of this Jewish hatred that spews out of media all over the world. So we have to get clear of that mainstream media Jewish bias that from Jon Stewart to popular music to Hollywood movies, all the American people are being trained to kill. What did I say the other day? That we're being trained to champs with machine guns and to shoot on command in order to get our free college education and our green cards and our relative place in the sun. But that place in the sun that everybody hopes to get, it ain't that at all. It's just a drug-addicted cell in a prison of poison abstractions that are totally produced by the Jews.
Now, you have a solution here that I kind of enjoyed because it follows Campbell's outrage and mindset. You said, I say every elected American official who believes in the 9/11 lies should be dragged into the streets and literally torn apart by millions of outraged American people. But it won't happen. Too many people, too many timid bottom feeders have been bribed into citizenry. With each green card comes a promotion for those fleeing misery in other countries. Happy to mow lawns and clean culverts, they're the new upwardly mobile slaves that drag the rest of us down to the refugee level. No longer an independent society, totally dependent on the welfare state, addicted to the poison products, guaranteeing a short lifespan and a dull mind. The electorate will reliably do what the Jewish big eye of television and its Mossad-controlled robot preachers tell it to do. Now, you know what, John? I mean, I for over the years here, my book is on Christian identity, because I actually believe that what, and like Thomas Jefferson, that what Jesus said was good and accurate, and he told us, you can do what I do and more. You know, Jesus didn't go out and kill anybody, didn't urge anybody to go out and kill anybody. The problem we got now, folks, is really how do you fight evil without becoming evil? And
Jesus gave us the clearest advice of all time, the number one solution of all time. Jesus gave it to us. No matter who Jesus was, Jesus is credited with giving us the most important advice to human society of all time. It applied then, it is applied down through time, and it applies now. throw the money changers from the temple. Get that shit out of your heart, because at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything. The only thing that means anything is how many people love you and how many people you love.
You're right. You know, and love, by the way, folks, the definition of love is your level of vibrational energy. The more we exercise that, the better we get at it, the better our environment comes. And what's happening now, this whole society, is, as you put it so well, John, that our culture of crime and corruption is a reflection of Talmudic law, which commands its followers to kill or slave every Jewish living, non-Jewish living being in the world. Now, I just had Harold Rome on my show yesterday, and we started talking about the whole Christian culture. The Christianity was created by the Jews. And now my friend that runs Truth Radio told me I could get in trouble for this, that it wasn't accurate to say the Jews killed Jesus. They were just standing by. They did say that let his blood be upon us, but it could have been the Romans. It could have been somebody else. It might not have been the Jews. It might not have been the Jews. It might not. We can't say that they were Jews. And I had brought that up because, you know, people say, now Clay, you could just refer to them as Zionists. Don't call them Jews. What do they call themselves?
Clayton, the whole thing about the Jews is they get non-Jews to do their killing for them, and that's why they pit these white countries against each other. The Russians are America's brothers. The United States, Canada, all the white countries across the northern hemisphere in the climate they belong in are brothers. We're cousins. We're all related, and the Jews have come out of the Mongol steppes through Khazaria and hijacked what was a nasty religion to begin with for their own purposes, and have essentially taken over the world by using their Mongol cunning and their total lack of conscience, a total lack of respect for other living things. It's all a prop in their little death fantasy where they control everything. Sure, if you set your mind to it, you can control everything, but the terrible things you have to do to get that are what prevent most people from doing it, because most people in the world, without any help from religion, have already figured out that the best thing in life is to be at home with your family and being happy and making people laugh. And the people who remain outside, the psychopaths of the world, remain outside that, and that is the cornerstone of the Hebrew religion. That they were always rejected for their